and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and in this video I want to talk about a feature that you see advertised on effects pedals, and people get really wound up about it and consider it really important, and it kind of is, but it's not the be-all end-all, so I thought I'll talk a little bit about it, and it's called true bypass. The idea of true bypass, it's how the pedal functions when it's not actually in use. So if we think about what happens in a guitar effect pedal, got something that looks like this. So the signal comes in one side, goes through a bit of circuitry that does whatever the pedal does, whether it's giving you overdrive or distortion or chorus, flange or whatever is happening in the electronics there, and then the signal comes out on the output jack and along your signal chain. That's fine. Now traditionally what would happen in an effects pedal is when you turn the pedal off, the signal still goes through the pedal, it just doesn't go into the bit of the pedal that affects your tone. So you have what should be an unaffected signal coming out of the output because it's not having the effect applied to it. What tends to happen in practice like that though is this, because the signal is still going through some circuitry, it can affect the tone in some way. You might lose a little bit of volume, you might lose a little bit of clarity, some top end, and that means when you've got pedals that aren't actually in your signal chain and they aren't doing anything, they're kind of sucking some quality out of your tone. Certainly the worst offender I've come across in my time, I've got one over there somewhere. I've got this old Jim Dunlop Crybaby, really nice pedal, I really enjoyed using it, but I got a bit frustrated with it because when it's not on, and to be honest the Crybaby was off more often than it was on, it just sucked so much quality out of the tone, it lost a lot of top end and a lot of brightness, and that's because that pedal's not true bypass. So what a true bypass pedal does, it looks more like this. When the pedal's engaged and the signal comes in, goes through the circuitry to give your drive or modulation or whatever, it looks the same. But when you turn the pedal off, effectively that input jack is kind of hardwired through to the output jack. No signal loss through the pedal circuitry because the signal's not going through the pedal circuitry, it's really just jumping from the input straight to the output. And that's a good thing because you haven't got any other electronics in the way to rob any signal quality from your tone. So that should be what everybody's using, yeah. But actually it's not, because true bypass has a couple of issues with it which stop it from being perfect. First off, you will notice some true bypass pedals, not all of them, in conjunction with some amps, not all of them, but when you turn the pedal on or off you get a really loud, really audible pop or a crack sound just as the signal's switching from one path to another. I've certainly got one pedal down on the board here that does that. It's not a deal breaker, but it can be a bit of a nuisance. So if it's a pedal that you switch off and on all the time, that noise can be a bit of an issue. If you go onto the internet you will find loads of people telling you ways you can address that by taking your pedal apart, putting resistors or something in some piece of electronics in the way, but other people will tell you actually no, that's actually going to damage the circuitry, blah blah blah. Then you end up with like flame wars going on, people just criticising each other's opinions. But bottom line is there can be a noise issue with true bypass when you turn the pedals off and on. The other thing to consider with true bypass, well any pedals really, but is what happens to your signal level throughout your pedal chain. So if you think about this as your effects pedal chain, so you've got all sorts of pedals chained together, and this line along the bottom, that represents the level of your guitar signal. Yeah, so as it's going through, you've got your signal level there. Now, if you think about what happens when we turn all those pedals off, like I said, it's not going to degrade the signal quality, so like how much bottom end, how much top end, mid range, and that is still going to be constant from input through to output. But you've got a general thing called capacitance, where you will just generally lose signal over a length of cable, and effectively what you've got in your pedal board is a length of cable. Even if the pedals are all bypassed, you're still coming in one end, running through a length of cable coming out the other. So your signal your signal level actually kind of looks like this, and it will decay over time. So by the time it reaches the last pedal in the chain, it's actually going to be a little bit quieter than it would be if you plugged that in just direct from the guitar. And there is a way around that, and this is called buffered bypass. And a buffer is basically a little piece of electronics that sits, you can either have a separate buffer pedal or what you will often find as pedals that offer a buffered bypass. And what a buffer does is it just takes your guitar signal level back up to where it should be. So we take a look at the notional schematic for a buffered bypass pedal. When the pedal's on, signal goes in, goes to the circuitry, give you your drive or your modulation or whatever. But when it turns the pedal off, instead of the signal going direct from the input to the output, it actually goes to a buffer, and the buffer, like I say, just kind of brings that signal level back up. So let's look at what happens if we put a buffered bypass pedal sort of in the middle of a signal chain, and then think about what is going to happen to the signal level. So look at what happens here. The signal level goes down as it goes through the chain. Then when it hits that buffered bypass pedal, remember all these pedals are off. When it hits that buffered bypass pedal, the signal kind of goes back up to normal level. It'll decay a little bit more towards the end because we haven't got buffered bypass further down the chain. But if you think about what the signal level is here at the end of this chain versus what it would be like if we didn't have that buffered bypass and the signal went all the way through, you can see we've kind of got more level coming out of the last pedal in the chain. And this is something you have, it's just a natural phenomenon in guitar cable or any circuitry, that you have signal loss over the length of the cable. And if you've got a pedal board in an effects loop out the front on the stage, you're adding an awful lot of potential signal loss because you're running your guitar into the amp for the preamp. Then you've got a maybe 10-20 foot cable coming from the effects loop send into your pedal board, and then another 10 or 20 foot cable going back into the effects loop return on the amp. So if you have a buffered bypass pedal somewhere, it can just kind of compensate for any signal loss that you have along your signal chain. Now, does all of this matter? Yes, it does, but it's not the be all and end all. People get really excited about, pedals are true bypass and all this, if it's true bypass better than buffered bypass. Nothing's necessarily better or worse than anything else. The important thing is, have you got a pedal there? Does the sound of that pedal and what it does to your tone, does it inspire you? Is it something that you like the sound of? Is it something that the audience is going to like the sound of? Whether or not that pedal is then true bypass or buffered bypass or no bypass at all, that's not the deal breaker. It's what the pedal sounds like that should be the deciding factor as to whether or not you want one in your rig. Now, I've got a pedal that I absolutely love. It is true bypass. It can make a little bit of noise sometimes when I'm switching it off and on, but I don't care because I love the sound that comes out of it. And some pedals, even if they are true bypass, there might be pedals that you never actually switch off anyway. Certainly my reverb pedal down here, that's kind of an always on pedal, so it doesn't matter to me what bypass mode that's in because it never gets bypassed. It's never not in the signal chain. So it's useful to know and to understand the difference between like true bypass, buffered bypass and whatnot, but don't spend so much time thinking about it. If you could devote some time to worrying about guitar gear or guitar in general, devote it to worrying about what your practice routine is or how well you can play, how good your sound is. Don't obsess about minute details. It's useful to know and to understand, but nobody ever complained about the sound that a particular band had because the guitarist's pedals weren't true bypass or they weren't buffered bypass or whatever. It's just a point of detail. It's useful to understand, but in the overall scheme of things, what really matters is the way that the guitar sounds, not the way the pedal behaves when it's not switched on. Okay, I know a couple of people that had kind of mentioned this in conversation with me recently, so I thought it was worth doing a video about it, and I hope you found it useful. If you did, please click like down there. If you really enjoyed the video and you want to see other stuff that I post on the channel, then please click subscribe, also down there. You're welcome to leave a comment on the video, but if you've got a specific question that you want to ask me, whether it's about guitars, guitar equipment, music theory, guitar playing, anything at all, you're probably better off going here, sending your question in through that form. I don't always see the comments that are left on YouTube videos, but if you send your question in through that form, I am guaranteed to see it and I can respond to your question in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.